The derelict station hung in space like a forgotten memory, its ancient hull scarred by centuries of cosmic debris and solar radiation. Dr. Elias Reeves guided his survey shuttle toward the docking bay, his heart racing with anticipation. After 15 years of studying fragments of the mysterious progenitor civilization, he was about to step inside the most intact structure ever discovered. "Station approach vector locked," announced Araya, his ship's eye. Atmospheric readings indicate traces of oxygen, but insufficient for human respiration. Temperature at -43°C. "Standard procedure, then," Elias muttered, checking his environmental suit's seals. "Keep communication channels open and alert Earth Coalition if I miss 3 consecutive check-ins." "Affirmative, Doctor." "May I remind you that Coalition protocols strongly advise against solo exploration of uncharted." "Duly noted, Araya." Elias interrupted with a smile. "But we both know no one else was willing to travel 17 light-years on a hunch." The shuttle docked with a gentle shudder. Elias secured his helmet and activated his suit's life support systems. The heads-up display flickered to life, projecting environmental data across his visor. With a deep breath, he cycled the airlock and stepped into the ancient station. His helmet lights cut through the darkness, revealing corridors that curved and spiraled in ways that defied conventional engineering. The architecture seemed to flow like frozen liquid, creating spaces that felt simultaneously claustrophobic and vast. "Fascinating," Elias whispered, running his scanner over the wall materials. "These composite alloys aren't in any database. They're still radiating trace energy after what must be thousands of years." He followed the energy signatures deeper into the station, documenting everything with his suit's cameras. The corridors gradually widened, leading him to what appeared to be a central chamber. The massive doors were sealed, but as Elias approached, they began to glow with a soft blue light. "Araya, are you seeing this?" he asked, transmitting the feed. "Affirmative. Energy readings are spiking. Caution advised." The doors parted silently, revealing a vast circular room. Elias stepped inside, and lights activated in sequence around the perimeter, illuminating a sight that stole his breath away. In the center of the chamber, suspended in a field of shimmering energy, hovered what could only be described as armor. It resembled a sleek exoskeleton, composed of a material that seemed to shift between solid metal and liquid mercury. Its surface rippled occasionally with pulses of blue-white energy, like a heartbeat in slow motion. "Incredible," Elias breathed, approaching cautiously. "It looks almost alive." His scanner revealed nothing useful. The readings were contradictory, suggesting the object existed partially in dimensions his instruments couldn't detect. As he circled the artifact, he noticed intricate symbols etched into the platform beneath it. They weren't progenitor script, at least not any he'd encountered before. Elias knelt to examine them, activating his suit's translation algorithms. To his astonishment, the symbols began to rearrange themselves before his eyes, shifting into patterns that his brain suddenly recognized as an ancient Earth language. "That's impossible," he whispered. The words now read clearly. "The worthy shall bear the burden of guardianship." The moment he comprehended the meaning, the armor pulsed brightly, and the energy field containing it began to dissipate. "Doctor, I'm detecting multiple vessels approaching the station." Araya's voice cut through his wonder. "Configuration matches Varric's hegemony warships." Elias felt his blood run cold. The Varrics, a collective of the galaxy's most technologically advanced species, had been systematically claiming all progenitor artifacts for decades, often with brutal efficiency. "Time to contact?" he asked, already backing toward the door. "Approximately 7 minutes until boarding parties can reach your location." Not enough time to return to his shuttle. As Elias weighed his options, the station shuddered violently, throwing him off balance. He stumbled forward, his hand instinctively reaching out to catch himself, and connected with the armor surface. The world exploded into light and sensation. Elias tried to pull away, but the liquid metal flowed up his arm with purpose, enveloping his environmental suit. Panic seized him as the material covered his body, reaching his helmet. Would it suffocate him? Crush him? Instead, his HUD disappeared, replaced by a vastly more complex interface that somehow felt intuitive. Symbiosis initiated. A voice resonated directly in his mind, neither male nor female. Calibrating to neural patterns. What are you? Elias gasped, finding that he could breathe normally even as the armor completely covered his original suit. I am Guardian, the voice replied, created to defend against the coming darkness. You are the first compatible neural pattern in 7,419 standard cycles. Before Elias could process this information, an alarm blared throughout the station. The chamber doors slid open, revealing 6 humanoid figures in advanced combat armor. Their helmets concealed their species, but their insignias identified them as Varric's hegemony enforcers. Human, the lead figure called out, its voice distorted through translation systems. Step away from the progenitor artifact. This station and all its contents are claimed under Hegemony Directive 771. Elias raised his hand slowly. I'm a researcher from Earth Coalition. I mean no harm. I accidentally activated. The human has interfaced with the artifact. Another enforcer shouted, raising a weapon that hummed with energy. Priority Alpha containment protocols. They will dissect you to understand how you activated me. Guardian's voice explained calmly. Shall we leave? Yes, Elias whispered, not fully comprehending what was happening. The armor moved before he consciously decided to. His body launched forward with impossible speed, weaving between plasma bolts as enforcers opened fire. He felt like a passenger in his own body as Guardian guided his movements with superhuman precision. They reached the doorway in seconds, then raced through the corridors faster than Elias thought possible. His mind reeled with questions, but survival took priority. My shuttle, he began, is already compromised. Guardian interrupted. The hegemony has deployed boarding craft. Alternative transportation is necessary. As they rounded a corner, they encountered 3 more enforcers. Without slowing, Guardian raised Elias's arm, and energy coalesced around his palm. A pulse of force sent the enforcers flying against the wall without killing them. How did you? Elias began. I amplify your capabilities. Your mind controls, I execute. They reached a different hangar bay, where a small hegemony scout ship sat unguarded. Guardian interfaced with its systems instantly, overriding security protocols and powering up the engines. Once inside, Elias finally had a moment to examine what he had become. The armor had transformed into something that resembled a second skin, its surface constantly shifting with subtle patterns of energy. When he looked at his reflection in the ship's console, he saw that his face was visible beneath a transparent helmet that hadn't been there moments before. What exactly are you? He asked as the ship detached from the station. I am the last creation of those you call progenitors, Guardian replied. Though they called themselves the architects, I was designed to bond with a compatible species when the need arose. And I'm compatible. Why me and not the Varrics? The Varrics are not compatible because they lack the specific genetic markers. Your species carries them because you are the descendants of a group of architects who settled on your world long ago, hiding from the coming threat. Elias struggled to process this revelation as Guardian guided the ship into FTL, leaving the hegemony vessels behind. You're saying humans are descended from the progenitors. That would rewrite our entire understanding of human evolution. It is one reason the Varrics fear humanity's potential. They have suspected this truth and have worked to suppress your species' development while harvesting the technology left by the architects. The implications were staggering. Earth Coalition had always wondered why the Varrics had been so reluctant to share advanced technology, keeping humanity as junior partners in galactic affairs. What is this coming darkness you mentioned? A force that consumes civilizations. The architects faced it once and nearly perished. They created me and others like me as weapons for the next confrontation, which their calculations predicted would occur within the next century of your time. The ship's sensors began to wail. Multiple hegemony vessels had appeared from FTL jumps ahead of them, cutting off their escape route. They're tracking us somehow, Elias realized. Yes, this vessel contains numerous tracking devices. I have disabled what I could, but some are integrated into the ship's core systems. A transmission cut through the comms. Human vessel, power down immediately. You have stolen hegemony property and will be detained. Compliance is mandatory. Elias gripped the controls, a plan forming. Guardian, what are the limits of your capabilities? With a compatible host, my potential grows over time as our symbiosis deepens. Currently, we are operating at approximately 17% efficiency, and that's enough to survive in space briefly. Yes, for approximately 30 minutes. Elias smiled grimly. Then I have an idea. He programmed the ship to continue on its current course, then moved to the airlock. Ready? He asked. Always, Guardian replied with what Elias could swear was anticipation. The airlock opened, and Elias was expelled into the void of space. The sensation was disorienting but not fatal. Guardian maintained his life support perfectly as they drifted away from the ship. Moments later, the hegemony vessels fired upon the empty scout ship, destroying it in a brilliant flash. Using minimal thrusters to avoid detection, Guardian guided them toward a nearby asteroid field. Once safely concealed, Elias finally allowed himself to process everything that had happened. So I'm bonded to an ancient superweapon, being hunted by the most powerful faction in the galaxy, and apparently descended from the most advanced civilization ever known, he summarized. And there's some cosmic horror coming to destroy everything. An accurate assessment, Guardian confirmed, though I prefer to think of myself as a guardian rather than a weapon. What happens now? Now, Dr. Elias Reeves, we find allies. There are others who know portions of the truth, scattered groups who have been preparing for generations. And we begin your training. The symbiosis has only just begun. As they drifted among the asteroids, Elias gazed at the vast starfield around them. His life had irrevocably changed, but with that change came purpose. If humanity truly carried the legacy of the architects, perhaps they were meant to face this coming darkness. Then let's get started, he said with determination. We have a galaxy to save. 3 weeks. It had been 3 weeks since Elias Reeves had bonded with Guardian and escaped the Varric's hegemony. 3 weeks of hiding, adapting, and learning. They had managed to stow away on a cargo freighter that took them to Nexus Station, a sprawling trading hub at the edge of Coalition space, where species from across the galaxy mingled in relative neutrality. Now, Elias sat in a dingy corner of a station bar, his armor reconfigured to resemble ordinary clothing. Only the faint shimmer of its surface betrayed its true nature to careful observers. You're getting better at maintaining the camouflage, he subvocalized, knowing Guardian would hear his thoughts. The symbiosis grows stronger daily, Guardian replied. Neural pathway integration has reached 34% efficiency. Elias sipped his drink, observing the diverse clientele. 4 different alien species were engaged in a high-stakes card game nearby, while a group of Coalition Marines on shore leave celebrated loudly at the bar. None paid attention to the solitary human in the corner. Your contact approaches, Guardian warned. Caution advised. Weapons detected. A cloaked figure slid into the seat across from Elias. When the hood fell back slightly, it revealed the iridescent scales and serpentine features of a Cerethi, a reptilian species known for their neutrality in galactic politics. You are either very brave or very foolish, human, the Cerethi hissed softly. Half the galaxy is hunting you. Just the Varric's hegemony, from what I hear, Elias replied casually. The hegemony controls half the galaxy, the Cerethi pointed out. I am Sizek. You requested information about the architects. Elias nodded. And you claim to have it. Sizek's vertical pupils narrowed. First, I must confirm something. With startling speed, the Serethi produced a small device and pressed it against Elias's arm before he could react. No danger, Guardian assured him. Scanning device only. The device hummed, then displayed symbols Elias couldn't read. Sci-Zac's eyes widened. So it's true, the alien whispered. You've bonded with a Guardian-class symbiote. The Keepers spoke of such things, but I never believed. The Keepers? Elias asked, leaning forward. Those who preserved the truth when the hegemony began erasing it. Come with me. This place has too many eyes. Sci-Zac led Elias through a labyrinth of service corridors until they reached a hidden compartment behind a maintenance panel. Inside was a small room filled with ancient artifacts and data terminals. This is one of our safe rooms, Sci-Zac explained. The hegemony doesn't know about it. Our? Elias asked. The Resistance, Sci-Zac replied, activating a holographic display. We are few but determined. For centuries, the Varix hegemony has suppressed certain truths about galactic history. The greatest of these is the true nature of the architects and their connection to humanity. The display showed images of ancient ruins similar to the station where Elias had found Guardian. Then it shifted to show DNA sequences. The evidence was clear for those willing to see it. Sci-Zac continued. Humans carry genetic markers identical to those found in architect remains. The hegemony discovered this when they first encountered your species 2 centuries ago, and they've been limiting our technological development ever since. Elias realized. Precisely. They fear what humanity might become if it recognized its heritage. The architects were not merely advanced. They could manipulate reality at fundamental levels. And if humans retain even a fraction of that potential. The Serethi speaks truth, Guardian confirmed. The architects seeded Earth after hiding their nature. Over generations, they became indistinguishable from native species through controlled evolution. But why? Elias asked both Sci-Zac and Guardian. Why hide on Earth? To escape detection from the Void Heralds, Sci-Zac said grimly. The force that nearly destroyed them. The architects knew the heralds would return, so they created weapons and hid them throughout the galaxy. Weapons like your Guardian. A sudden explosion rocked the station, sending dust cascading from the ceiling. Alarm sirens wailed in the distance. They found us, Sci-Zac hissed, gathering data crystals. Take these, coordinates to other resistance cells, and accumulated knowledge about your heritage. Hegemony forces approaching, Guardian warned. Multiple heavy signatures. How did they find us so quickly? Elias demanded, accepting the crystals. Betrayal, perhaps, or new tracking technology. It matters not. Sci-Zac opened a concealed panel. This maintenance shaft will lead you to the lower docking bays. Find Captain Neravos. She commands the coalition vessel Defiant. Tell her code phrase, architects rise at twilight. She will help you. What about you? I will create a diversion. Sci-Zac smiled sadly. My species is long-lived, but not immortal. I have served the truth for 200 years. I am prepared to die for it. Before Elias could protest, the station shook with another explosion, closer this time. Guardian flowed into its combat configuration, the illusory clothing dissolving into the sleek, liquid metal armor. Go, Sci-Zac insisted. You carry the galaxy's hope. Elias nodded reluctantly and entered the maintenance shaft. Behind him, he heard Sci-Zac seal the panel and activate what sounded like explosive devices. The shaft was narrow and dark, but Guardian enhanced his vision, revealing the path ahead. They moved quickly through the station's infrastructure, avoiding main corridors where combat could be heard. Hegemony forces are deploying throughout the station, Guardian informed him. They are using energy scanners calibrated to my signature. Can you mask it? Temporarily. But full suppression would require reducing functionality below safe levels for your survival. They reached the lower docking bays to find them in chaos. Civilians rushed to evacuation ships while security forces attempted to maintain order. Through the viewports, Elias could see hegemony warships surrounding the station. How do we find the Defiant? Elias wondered aloud. Coalition military vessel detected in Bay 17. Guardian highlighted the location on Elias's HUD. They navigated through the panicked crowds, Guardian's camouflage making them appear as just another station security officer. When they reached Bay 17, they found it locked down with armed guards, not station security, but Coalition Marines. Elias approached cautiously. I need to speak with Captain Voss. The Marine raised her weapon. Identification. Architects rise at twilight, Elias said quietly. The Marine's expression remained neutral, but she touched her comm. Captain, package for delivery. After a moment, she nodded. Follow me. They were escorted aboard the Defiant, a mid-sized Coalition warship. Unlike the sleek hegemony vessels, Coalition ships were built for durability rather than aesthetics, all angular armor plates and exposed weapon systems. Captain Nera Voss waited on the bridge. She was a tall woman with close-cropped gray hair and the bearing of someone who had seen too much combat. So you're what all the fuss is about, she said, studying Elias. Show me. Elias let Guardian reveal itself, the armor flowing into its natural state. Several bridge officers gasped. Voss merely nodded. Sizek's message said you bonded with Architect technology. I didn't quite believe it until now. Sizek sent a message. When? 3 days ago. Said you might come seeking help. Her eyes narrowed. Did you leave him behind? He insisted on creating a diversion. Voss closed her eyes briefly. That old snake, always the martyr. She straightened. We're breaking dock in 2 minutes. The hegemony has declared martial law on this station, supposedly hunting terrorists. They're really after you. I never wanted to bring this trouble. Save it, Voss interrupted. I've been fighting the hegemony's secret war for decades. This isn't your fault. This is just the conflict finally coming into the open. The ship rumbled as it detached from the station. Immediately, alarms blared. Hegemony vessels moving to intercept. A tactical officer announced. They're charging weapons. Evasive pattern Delta, Voss ordered calmly. Prepare jump drives. Elias gripped a console as the ship lurched. They'll track your jump signature. Let them, Voss replied with a tight smile. We're headed to Sanctuary. The Defiance shuddered under enemy fire, but its shields held as it accelerated away from the station. Moments later, space distorted around them as the jump drives engaged. When they emerged from the jump, they faced a massive asteroid field surrounding the dwarf star. Voss directed the ship through a complex approach vector until they reached what appeared to be a hollow asteroid. As they drew closer, massive doors opened, revealing a hidden base inside. Welcome to Sanctuary, Voss said as they docked. The heart of the Resistance and the last free repository of architect knowledge in the galaxy. Inside the asteroid was an entire city, a sprawling complex of structures built into the rock itself. Beings from dozens of species moved purposefully through broad corridors. Some wore Coalition uniforms, others the distinctive garb of independent worlds. How long has this been here? Elias asked in wonder. Nearly a century, Voss replied, leading him deeper into the complex. Built by the first Coalition officers who learned the truth about the hegemony's suppression. Every species here has lost something to Varric's control. Knowledge, autonomy, homeworlds. They entered a vast chamber filled with artifacts and technology that hummed with the same energy Elias had sensed in Guardian. Architect technology, Guardian confirmed. Some of these items date back to the final war with the Void Heralds. We've collected what we could, Voss explained. Studied them as best we can without truly understanding them. Until now. She turned to face Elias directly. Your symbiote is the key we've been waiting for. With its help, we might finally understand how to use these weapons before the Heralds return. The Heralds, Elias said. Sizek mentioned them. What exactly are they? A new voice answered. The end of all things, if we cannot stop them. An elderly human man approached, leaning on a cane. His eyes were milky with cataracts, but he moved with surprising purpose. "Dr. Reeves, this is Admiral Hiroshi Chen," Voss introduced him, "founder of the Resistance and the first human to discover the truth about our origins." Chen studied Elias with his clouded eyes. "The symbiote has chosen well. I sense its harmony with you. This human carries trace architect genetic markers stronger than most," Guardian observed privately to Elias. "The Void Heralds are not a species," Chen explained. "They are a force, a cosmic inevitability that arrives when civilizations reach certain technological thresholds. They've wiped out countless galactic societies over millions of years. But the architects fought them," Elias said. "And nearly perished," Chen nodded. "They realized they couldn't win through conventional means, so they created the Guardians and other weapons. Then they scattered throughout the galaxy, hiding their nature and their knowledge." A massive hologram activated in the center of the room, showing a spiral galaxy with pulsing red areas spreading like an infection. "This is happening now," Voss said grimly. "The Herald's advanced scouts have already entered our galaxy. The hegemony knows this, but believes they can bargain with the Heralds, sacrifice some worlds to save others." "That's monstrous," Elias breathed. "It's pragmatic from their perspective," Chen sighed. "What they don't understand is that the Heralds cannot be appeased. They are drawn to advanced technology like moths to flame. The more the hegemony develops, the more attractive they become as targets." Alarms suddenly blared throughout the base. A tactical officer rushed in. "Multiple hegemony warships detected. They've found sanctuary." Voss cursed. "How?" "We were careful with our jump signature." "Unknown, Captain, but they're deploying boarding craft." Chen looked at Elias. "The symbiote. They must have developed technology to track its energy signature at greater distances." "Possible," Guardian agreed. "My energy patterns are unique and difficult to mask completely." "We need to evacuate," Voss ordered. "Get the artifacts to the backup location." Chen shook his head. "There's no time. The knowledge we've accumulated over decades, it cannot fall into hegemony hands." Elias felt a cold certainty settle over him. "What do you need me to do?" "The symbiote," Chen said. "At full capacity, could it interface with all the architect technology simultaneously?" "Theoretically possible," Guardian replied. "But our symbiosis is only at 34% efficiency. Full interface would require at least 70%. We don't have time to reach 70% naturally," Elias said. "Is there a way to accelerate it?" There was a pause before Guardian answered. "Yes, but the process would place extreme strain on your neural pathways. Permanent damage is possible." "How extreme?" 27% chance of fatal cerebral hemorrhage, 63% chance of severe neurological damage. Chen looked grim. "It's too risky." But Elias had made his decision. "Do it. If the hegemony gets this technology, they'll either misuse it or destroy it. Either way, we lose our best chance against the Heralds." "Elias," Voss began. "I chose this the moment I touched Guardian," Elias interrupted. "I'm not running anymore." "Are you certain?" Guardian asked privately. "Yes," Elias replied without hesitation. "Begin the acceleration." Pain erupted through his nervous system as Guardian initiated the process. Elias fell to his knees, his vision blurring as the symbiosis forcibly deepened. He felt as though his consciousness was being stretched across an infinite space. "Symbiosis at 40%, 50%, Guardian narrated as the process continued. 60%. Through the haze of pain, Elias could hear explosions and weapons fire. The hegemony forces had breached the base. 70% achieved, Guardian announced. Beginning interface with architect systems. Elias raised his hand toward the assembled artifacts. Energy arced between them and Guardian, creating a web of light throughout the chamber. The artifacts activated, their dormant systems coming online after millennia of silence. Knowledge transfer initiating. Warning: neural capacity approaching maximum. Elias felt his mind expanding beyond normal human limits as information flooded in. Star charts, weapon schematics, historical records, and something else. A signal. A beacon left by the architects, waiting to be activated. With the last of his strength, Elias found the activation sequence and triggered it. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Every piece of architect technology in the chamber pulsed with blinding light. Through the base's hull, a powerful signal broadcast outward, crossing light years in an instant. Hegemony soldiers burst into the chamber, but froze at the sight before them. Elias stood at the center of a maelstrom of energy, Guardian's form now blazing with light, symbols racing across its surface. Signal sent. Activation complete. Symbiosis at 85% and stabilizing. To Elias's surprise, the fatal hemorrhage he'd been warned about didn't come. Instead, his mind cleared, expanded. He could see patterns in reality that had been invisible before. Strings of probability, threads of cause and effect. "What did you do?" the hegemony commander demanded. Elias smiled. "I woke them up. Across the galaxy, on dozens of worlds, ancient technology began to activate. Dormant guardians, weapons, shields, the full arsenal the architects had hidden for the final confrontation with the Void Heralds. And in the void between stars, something else stirred. The remaining architects, those who had hidden in the deepest reaches of space, received the signal they had been waiting for. The final war was beginning. "You've doomed us all," the commander said, raising his weapon. "No," Elias replied calmly. "I've given us a fighting chance." With a gesture, he created a shield of energy that deflected the commander's shot. With another, he disabled the weapons of every hegemony soldier in the room. "The Void Heralds are coming," Elias continued, his voice resonating with newfound authority. "They cannot be stopped, only confronted." The architects knew this. That's why they created beings like Guardian, not as weapons of conquest, but as tools of preservation. He walked forward, and the soldiers instinctively backed away. "You have a choice now," he told the commander. "Continue fighting a war against your allies, or prepare for the real enemy. The hegemony can join us, or it can perish alone." Chen approached slowly, his expression a mixture of awe and concern. "What happened to you, Elias?" "Evolution," Elias replied. "The symbiosis is complete. I understand now what the architects intended. Humanity wasn't just their hiding place. We're their successors, their hope for the future." He turned to face Voss, Chen, and the others. "The beacon I activated will summon all who carry architect knowledge and technology, a gathering of forces not seen since the last Herald incursion." "And then?" Voss asked. Elias looked upward, seeing beyond the asteroid's rock ceiling to the stars beyond. "Then we finish what the architects started. We fight for our galaxy's survival." Guardian's surface rippled with anticipation. "The symbiosis has given us capabilities beyond my original parameters. We are more than either of us could have been alone." As the hegemony soldiers retreated in confusion, Elias felt the weight of his new responsibility settling upon him. He was no longer just Dr. Elias Reeves, ex-archaeologist. He had become something new, a bridge between humanity's past and future, between the legacy of the architects and the survival of all sentient life. The galaxy was about to change forever. The great darkness was coming, but this time, the light was ready to meet it. And at the center of it all stood a human wearing armor no alien could master, prepared to shatter the galaxy's balance in the name of its salvation.